Today we're going to review multiplying, and we're also going to go the opposite way, which is called factoring. So with our warm-up, let's look at 3 examples similar to the ones that we did yesterday. The first one is x minus 3 squared. Now remember to multiply this out. Since it's 2 terms and there's that minus there, we cannot distribute. So this is what you cannot do. You could do that if that was 3x squared as one term, but since it's 2 terms, we can't distribute. Instead, let's use the area model like we did yesterday. This means x minus 3 times x minus 3. If we split this up into rectangles, we can find the area of each rectangle and then combine like terms. So for the first rectangle, we have x times x, which is x squared. The second rectangle, we have negative 3 times x, which is negative 3x. The next rectangle, we have x times negative 3, so again, negative 3x. And for the last rectangle, we have negative 3 times negative 3, which is positive 9. We're going to combine like terms here, the two x's we can put together. And then we're going to write it in standard or general form where we have the highest exponent first, x squared. A negative 3x plus a negative 3x is a negative 6x. And then we have the 9. So multiplying this out, we get this trinomial, it's called 3 terms, x squared minus 6x plus 9. Let's try another rectangle for the next one. We have x squared minus 2x plus 6. And we're going to multiply that by x plus 1. This time the rectangle will be 3 by 2. Everywhere we say plus and minus, we're going to draw lines. For the first box, we have x squared times x, which is x to the third. Then we have negative 2x times x, which is negative 2x squared. 6 times x is 6x. X squared times 1 is x squared. Negative 2x times 1 is negative 2x. And 6 times 1 is 6. We're going to combine like terms and put it from the highest exponent down. So x to the third power is the highest. We have x squared minus 2x squared, so it's minus 1x squared. We have minus a 2x. Oh, plus 6. So 6x minus 2x would be plus 4x. So again, combining these two, we have 4x. And then we have plus 6. Let's try the last one. We have 2x plus 3. We have x minus 5. Make a rectangle here. Put a line wherever we see the plus and minus. The first box is 2x times x, which is 2x squared. Then we have 3 times x, which is 3x. 2x times negative 5, which is negative 10x. And in the last box, we have 3 times negative 5, which is negative 15. If you write it out from the highest power down, we'll have 2x squared minus 7x minus 15. So again, yesterday we looked at multiplying these by the rectangle or FOIL. You can use either method. And today we're going to kind of go backwards. Today I'm going to give you the answer, and you're going to go backwards and give me the factored form. So before we do that, let's review what factors are. 2x plus 3 times x minus 5 are factors of this answer here, 2x squared minus 7x minus 15. Because they multiply to it. So when you multiply those two, this is what we get. So factors are things that multiply to something. Let's do an easier example. What are some factors of 12? Well, 1 and 12 multiply to 12. Also, let's see if I can draw this 2 here. Also 3 and 4. 2 and 6. Also the negatives of these, so I could say negative 3 and negative 4, and so on. These are all factors of 12 because they multiply to 12. What are some factors of 4x squared? Well, we could say 4 and x squared. We could say 2x, 2x. We could say 2x squared and 2. We could say 4x squared and 1. Also, if we make both negative, it will work as well. So again, factors are things that multiply to the number that you're looking at. So today we're going to look at 2 ways to factor polynomials, and tomorrow we'll use one of these ways to find a shortcut. So the first method is called pulling out a greatest common factor. GCF stands for greatest common factor. And what a greatest common factor is it's the biggest number that you can divide all of the terms by and not get a decimal. So here are the steps. Look at the number of coefficients. What's the biggest number you can divide by and not get a fraction or a decimal? If each term has the same letter, what's the greatest amount you can divide out of each term? So let's do a few examples here. So let's start with the 2x minus the 4. What's the biggest number we can divide a 2 and a 4 by, not get a fraction? That would be 2. There's only one x, so we can't pull anything else out. So 2 is the greatest common factor of 2x and 4. So now let's divide that 2 out of each of the terms. So if we do that, 2x divided by 2 is x. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So these two are factors of 2x minus 4. If you want to check your answer, you can distribute, and you should get what you started with here, which we do. So 2 times x minus 2 is the factored form, where 2 is the greatest common factor. All right, let's do the next one, 3x squared minus 6x plus 9. Well, we can divide each of these three terms by 3. So let's pull that out. Let's divide everything by 3 and write what's left over inside. 3x squared divided by 3 is x squared. 6x divided by 3 is 2x. And 9 divided by 3 is 3. So here are two factors of this trinomial. And again, the greatest common factor would be the 3 here. So greatest common factor, what's the biggest number we can divide all of the terms by? Let's try the next one. Number 3, again, we have a 2 and a 4. We know we can pull out a 2, but this has an x cubed and an x squared. We can actually pull out an x squared from each of the terms and still get a whole number. So let's do that. So when we do that, we're dividing each of these terms by 2x squared. 2 divided by 2 is 1. X cubed divided by x squared is x. 4 divided by 2 is 2. X squared divided by x squared is 1. So we get 2x squared times x minus 2. Let's try the next one, 12x cubed minus 40x. Start with the 12 and the 40. What's the biggest number you could divide a 12 and a 40 by and not get a decimal? That would be a 4. How about x cubed and x? We can pull out the smallest number of x's, which is one of them. So 4x is our greatest common factor. We'll divide each by 4x. We'll get 12x, so 12 divided by 4 is 3. If you have 3 x's on top and 1 on bottom, when you cancel, you have 2 left on the top. The minus, 40 divided by 4 is 10, and x divided by x is 1. So here's our answer. And the last one, 5 and 50, we can divide each by 5. And there's only an x in one of the terms, so we can't divide by any x's. So we'll divide each of these by 5. And we'll get x squared minus 10. So that's the first step in factoring. If you can pull out a greatest common factor, do that. And divide it out of each of the terms. All right, let's go over if you can factor further. This is called the box and circle method. You can use if there are 3 terms, usually, not always. Here are the steps. Factor out greatest common factor, and I'll do the rest of the steps I'll show you down here. Okay, so we take a look at it. First step is their greatest common factor of x squared, 2x, and 15, and there's not besides 1. So then the second step is we're going to draw a box and circle. So we draw a box with a circle in it, divide the rest of the box into 4 parts. We start at the upper left-hand corner with the highest power, x squared. The middle term goes in the circle, and this last term goes at the end. Okay, so there's our box and circle with our expression. The next step is we're going to multiply the first number and the last number together. So we're going to get negative 15x squared. We want two things that multiply to negative 15x squared that add to our middle circle, negative 2x. So ignore the x's at first, just look at the numbers. What multiplies to negative 15? That adds to negative 2. So I can think of, let's see, negative 15, that would be negative 5, and 3. Do they add to negative 2? Yes, they do. So I got out my first guess. Let's put x's with each of these. Negative 5x times 3x is negative 15x squared, and negative 5x plus 3x is negative 2x. So once you've found numbers that work for both the multiply and the add, you put them in either order in the remaining two boxes. So I'll just put my negative 5x, my 3x here. Now we're going to do the opposite of what we did yesterday. We have the inside of the box. Let's get the outside. So the first box, what multiplies to x squared? Well, that's x times x. All right, now let's go over to this box. X times what is negative 5x? That's negative 5. Let's go to the bottom box. X times what is 3? That's plus 3. You can check your answer. Negative 5 times 3 is negative 15. So two factors, two things that multiply to this trinomial we started with are x minus 5 and x plus 3. Okay, let's try another box and circle. I'm going to give myself more room here. So here's number 2. First, check for greatest common factor. There's not for these three terms besides 1. So now we draw our box and our circle. Start at the upper left-hand corner with our first term, 3x squared. Our middle term goes in the middle circle, and our last term goes in the bottom box. We want to multiply the first box and the last box. What multiplies to negative 6x squared, that adds to the middle. And if it's just a negative x, that's the same as a negative 1x. So we want two things that multiply to negative 6 that add to negative 1. So if I think of factors of negative 6 and negative 1, the ones that work would be negative 3x and 2x. They multiply to a negative 6 and they add to a negative 1. So we'll put those in the other two boxes in any order. And then we'll work backwards. Let's get a darker color here. All right, start with the first box. What multiplies to 3x squared? Well, that would be 3x and x. Now, if we put the 3x here, it would be really hard to multiply the 3 by something to get the 2. So instead, let's put the 3x on this side, because I know that 3x times negative 1 will give us negative 3x. So we'll put our x on the top. X times 2 is 2x. So here are two factors, 3x plus 2 and x minus 1. You can write your factors in any order, because when you're multiplying two things, it doesn't matter what order you multiply them in. So you can write it either way. All right, let's try a few more, and this will be what your assignment is. Greatest common factor and box and circle. So number 3, oops, I cut it off a little bit. Let's try that again. Number 3, there is a greatest common factor we can pull out. There's a 2. We can divide each of these terms by 2. So let's do that. If I divide all these numbers by 2, I'm going to get x squared minus 5x plus 6. Let's use our box and circle for just the inside. So we'll ignore the 2 at first, and we'll stick that back in our answer at the end. All right, so here's my box and circle. Oops. All right, start in the upper left-hand corner, 2x squared. We have our negative 10x. We have our 12. We want to know what multiplies to, and we have to multiply the first box and the last box. What multiplies to 24? Oh, and I put the wrong thing in the box and circle, didn't I? We can do it this way, but since we factored, I should put the factored form in here. So I should have put x squared, negative 5x, and 6. And we want to know what multiplies to 6x squared that adds to negative 5x. So if you think about it, this would be negative 2x and negative 3x. They multiply to a positive, and they add to a negative. So in either order, I'll put our factors, our numbers, and then we'll get the outside of the box. So it multiplies to x squared, that's x times x. X times what gives us negative 2x? That'd be a negative 2. X times what gives us a negative 3x? Negative 3. So our factors are x minus 2 and x minus 3. And don't forget about this 2 that we pulled out. So this is the factored form. All right, let's try one more box and circle. And this will be what we practice today, also tomorrow as well. All right, x squared, 5x, 4. There's not a greatest common factor besides 1. So let's put this right in our box and circle. So we have x squared, 5x, and a 4. We're going to multiply our first box and our last box. What multiplies to 4x squared? That adds to 5x. Well, that would be 4x and 1x. 2 and 2 wouldn't work, but 4 and 1 do. So in either order, we'll put our 4x and our 1x. Okay, what multiplies to x squared? That's x and x. X times what gives us 4x squared? That would be 4. X times what gives us x? That would be a 1. So this factors to x plus 4, x plus 1. You can check your answer for any of these by multiplying it out, foiling, or putting it in a box, multiplying it out. So your assignment will be to practice this, and we'll take a look at this again tomorrow.